Good morning. No, good morning. It's a morning on my side of the world. It's an afternoon, and probably most of you are where you are. Um, I'm very happy to be here. My name is Cesar Salazar, and I will be your moderator today. We have an amazing group of entrepreneurs and startup executives that will be sharing with us um, a few things about their experience. So. Um, yeah, the topic for today is to learn about venture studios, and I will introduce our group in a few minutes. But we will be going through some pretty cool insights that they have about what are startup studios, what they do, how do startup studios work with their talent, what does it take to start a company in one of these environments. The different types of businesses that you can be building there. And hopefully, like the materials that we will be sharing today are going to be super inspiring for you, and you'll be able to identify if something like this is part of your own adventure. I am imagining that some of you here have been thinking about what you want to be doing with your life. How do you want to spend it in the best possible way? And for different people, that answer is different. And here we have uh, four people who will be sharing with us how they came to be doing what they're doing, what they've been learning, and they will go like deeper into their experience. I will be sharing very generously with you. Um, Before we started this, like I had the opportunity to meet this gentleman, and one thing I picked up is that some of them have been like thinking about starting companies, about creating products for a very long time, including like starting at 10 years old, 12 years old. These are people that have been passionate about this for a very long time, and I am excited to learn from them. I feel like there's so much to learn. I've been in this world for 20 years, and every time that I sit down with entrepreneurs, I learn something else. So I'm here to learn too. I'm here to moderate. I'm here to ask some questions. I'm here to take some questions from the audience. And thank you very much for being here. Our first guest, I'm going to introduce one by one, and they will be sharing something with us, and we will go through like a few questions. Our first guest is Jake Horowitz. Jake Horowitz, correct, Jake? Is that
Yeah,
how you pronounce it?
Hurwitz, that's
Okay,
right. Yeah.
Jake Horowitz. So he is currently the CMO at Day One, that they defined as a new type of school for emerging entrepreneurs. He's also the former co-founder of the Global Startup Studio Network. So he's known a lot of people doing these things. He has co-authored the first white paper on startup studios in 2018, and he has consulted or advised over 120 studios globally. Um, so, Jake, what's a startup studio? What do they do? What have you learned helping all the studios globally?
Yeah. So I just shared my screen. Can everyone see this okay? Just give me a thumbs up if so. All right, cool. So I'll share a bit about what is a startup studio. I'll start by saying, in the case of this presentation, venture studio, startup studio, it's the same thing. We often use that term interchangeably. So if that's a question anybody has, because the title of the event is Venture Studio, but now the presentation says Startup Studio, like assume it's the same thing. So we'll talk about what they are. We'll talk about the various types. There's really three main types. And then I'll share a little bit about how to understand these types of studios if you are an angel investor, a limited partner, an LP, or a venture capitalist, or an entrepreneur. So the first thing is what is this thing? So startup studios are companies that create companies. They usually do it in four steps. First, they validate new ideas for startups. Usually, we're talking they'll work on hundreds every month or every quarter to then launch usually one startup per quarter. So they'll validate, They'll then build it internally. A small team will actually build the MVP or the prototype. They have a fund, so they'll fund every company that they create, usually around $100,000 to maybe $500,000. I'm in New York, so I'm thinking US dollars, just to give you an idea of the amount of capital that typically goes into these companies. And then they launch them. The value add, essentially, that studios bring can be shown pretty well in this diagram here. So we created this diagram in 2018 and put it in the first white paper, The Rise of Startup Studios. If anybody wants that white paper, let me know, and I'd be happy to send the link around. But it's really easy to explain studios when we compare it to other types of organizations like venture capital funds, accelerators, and then angels. So like looking at venture capital funds is in the second line and accelerators in this fourth line here. There are lots of different points in the value chain that these organizations provide value to entrepreneurs on. So identifying a problem to build a company, helping them figure out the solution, validating the solution, helping them get their first customers, getting to many customers, scaling it, and then exiting it. That's the timeline for a startup. Studios provide a really strong network of people and knowledge and investment, both in the form of money, capital, and skills and building. So like they'll build your app with you, they'll build the prototype, they'll give you money, all the way through identifying the problem stage through the first customer to many customer stage. At that point, it's up to the CEO of that studio to take it from there. And we'll get into that in a moment. VC funds come in much later. Micro VC funds, meaning like the pre-seed and seed stage funds, they come in also later, but not as late. And accelerators play somewhere in the middle. So imagine the studio as they build startups for a longer amount of time. They put in a ton of resources, the most resources compared to all of these other orgs, but they don't work on as many startups. An accelerator might have 200 startups a year. A VC might invest in 20 to 30 a year. A studio is more like 5 to 10 a year. Just to give an idea of the general success rate, there are early numbers out there. It's becoming easier, but it has always been very difficult to collect the data of studio success, mainly because they haven't been around for that long. And it takes 5 to 7 years for a startup to succeed, exit on average. And studios have really only been a thing for about 3 to 5 years. So we're getting to the point of we can get the data soon, but we're not fully there yet. 84% of startups that come out of studios, though, make it to a seed round. And 72% of those then make it to Series A, which is massive. This is another white paper, Disrupting the Venture Landscape, from GSSN, that has this piece of information as well as some other data sources. I would certainly recommend reading those as well. Can send that one around if anybody would like. Speed is one of the main parts of a studio that makes the startup so attractive. And time is money, right? Burn rate, that's a thing. So the longer it takes a startup to get to the next round, the more money they're burning, which makes it more risky and has a direct impact on the valuation of it. And so companies coming out of startup studios move much faster, oftentimes twice as fast as startups that are just built in the wild that don't come out of a studio. And that's because they validate properly and much faster. They have capital being spent in the right areas. They have a team working on the right things. So speed is of the essence here. It's a massive way to de-risk the startup building process. So there are a lot of types of studios, but there are 3 main types that I like to categorize them into. There's the traditional studio, the corporate studio, and the accelerator studio. These are the 3 most common that you'll see all over the world. Oftentimes I get asked, what's the best? Can't answer that. They're just different, and a lot depend on who is building it and what their ultimate goals are. So I'm going to quickly break down each of these 3. The traditional studio often falls into 2 categories: human first or idea first. That's what I call it, at least. It's not like an official name, but I write about it and it's in the white paper. So I guess it can be somewhat official. Human first, in my opinion, is best for new studios. What they do is first thing that they do is find a great entrepreneur to build a startup around. So we'll say, hey, we found this amazing entrepreneur. They're from San Francisco, Silicon Valley. They're amazing at AI, and they want to build something in the fintech space. What are we going to build? We don't know, but that is the CEO. Let's build a startup around them. It's a fantastic approach. The idea-first approach is actually the complete opposite. And so that is where the team at the studio would say, we have this amazing startup that we've already validated. It's an AI startup in the fintech space. We already have 25 customers. We already injected $500,000 into it. Now we need to go find a CEO to run it. And that CEO will act as a surrogate founder, essentially, and then take it from there. There are pros and cons to both models. Happy to share those if anyone has any specific questions about it. I've also written about this a lot in a few blog posts, but for the sake of this presentation, I'll just leave it at that. So human first studios, if you're just building startups with your team, those are best for new studios. Idea first studios are very difficult to pull off unless you have a really, really strong track record already. Corporate startup studios. This is where the startup studio will build companies either within or with on the side of corporations, using corporations' resources, their money, their network, their reputation, their reach, their data to help them build those startups. We see two main types. There's the internal studio. A few really big ones in the US at least are MasterCard and Procter & Gamble. They have internal innovation labs that will consistently be tasked with creating new ventures for MasterCard or for P&G to put into market. On the other hand, the external corporate startup studios are independent organizations that work with corporations who will pay them money to co-build startups together. They often work much faster because there's no red tape. They don't need to deal with the politics and red tape of a big organization. A few examples of these are Founders Factory, that started in the UK, and Rainmaking, also started in the UK, and both are all over the world now. And the last is the Accelerator Startup Studio. There are many of these, and all have their own flavor based off of either the geography that they're in or the sector that they like to build in. But essentially, these are companies that they look like accelerator programs, but they act a little bit more like a studio. So an accelerator program is, they find usually 12, maybe 20 companies per class that are around $1 million in valuation, and they help them get to $10 million in valuation. They help them accelerate the speed to the next level. An accelerator studio will do that same thing, but with individuals who don't have a company yet. And so Entrepreneur First or Humans in the Wild are two good examples of some leading accelerator type startup studios that will basically say, hey, let's bring in 20 entrepreneurs and they'll build a new startup from scratch in 6 months or in 3 months in our program. And then we'll fund them at the end and then help them co-build from there. So the benefits for startups or the founders that are building these startups with studios are that they use a repeatable process. So you don't need to go make a bunch of mistakes to figure things out oftentimes. You get to work with the institutional co-founders. That's the studio team. Think of it. It's an institution that is acting as your co-founder and your investor all in one. It's a new type of relationship that founders have. We often think about our relationship with our founders in one way, our co-founders, and then our investors in another way. But now they're a mix of both. It's unique. Plus, you have financial resources, a lot of money to work with. And so how amazing is it to be an entrepreneur thinking, I want to go start a startup and I need to go build something first and then go raise money. Or I could join a studio and the money's right there on day one and we build something together. So speed, capital efficiency, and reduced risk are the main three value props that studios provide to entrepreneurs. This also gets translated to the investors as well, because at the end of the day, the investors are the ones providing capital and other resources to entrepreneurs in the first place. So how we explain studios to VCs, angels, and LPs, that's institutional LPs, is very difficult. mainly because these main three groups are so used to the model that they're used to, which is venture capital. It's a 2 and 20 fee structure and carry structure. And that's just what's been around for a long time. They just figured that out over the last decade or two. And so now we're trying to introduce a new model to them. When I talk to venture capitalists about studios, I basically pitch, this is a great way for you to create future deal flow for yourself. VCs are looking for deal flow. They're constantly just looking for startups to invest in. If they partner with studios or invest in studios or are just friends with studios, you can basically, as a VC, say to a studio, hey, I really want to invest in this type of company this year. Can you build that for me? The answer is yes. Sure, we can. They get 2 bites of the same apple. A really important thing to note is that studios earn common stock in every company that they build because they co-founded it, and preferred stock in every company that they built because they invested in it. So you get 2 bites of the same apple. Investors typically only get preferred stock when they invest in companies. Now you can get common stock. That's really interesting. Angel investors are often in a position to actually work directly with founders and can provide a lot of value directly to entrepreneurs. They can open up their network. They love to actually build. They often miss the days of building. They love mentoring. It's just why they angel invest. And so they can work directly with founders. They can source their own deals through studios, which is the same type of opportunity I just mentioned with VCs, which is, hey, I want to see this type of company get built. Can you build it so I can invest in it? And then they can wholesale their investments. So if you write a check to back a startup studio as an angel investor, that one check will translate to 20, 30, 50 companies over the next couple of years. That's a big deal. And then limited partners, in this case, we typically see institutional LPs, family offices, and sovereign wealth funds. These are the big funds around the world. That's the first place that most studios go to raise money for their fund. This is an opportunity for limited partners to earn founder economics, in other words, common stock in companies that are coming out of the studio. They couldn't do that otherwise. They're the furthest removed typically from the actual startups themselves that are being built, because normally LPs will invest in VCs who then invest in the startups. So they don't even know each other. But if they invest in the studio, they're basically cutting out the middleman of the VC and can now have a direct role in building those startups on a day-to-day basis if they want to. And now they get founder economics, which is really powerful. And then on top of that, a lot of family offices and sovereign wealth funds in particular have a passion or a mandate for geography. For example, sovereign wealth funds in the Middle East really want to build startup ecosystems. They're investing enormous amounts of money in basically creating an innovation capital in the world. And by investing in studios, that becomes the nucleus or the center of the innovation function within a community. And now they own a big piece of that. That's extremely powerful as well. All right, that was a lot. I just packed into a couple of minutes. I'll pause for questions now if anybody wants to ask. Is now a good time for questions, or should we load those all towards the end? I think you're muted, Cesar.
Yeah, I am. Thank you. It's a great time for questions. Thank you for everything you're sharing. So I will start with one question that I have. I am assuming that not every venture or startup studio is the same. So if I'm an entrepreneur thinking about joining one of these, what do I should be looking for? What are the signs of a great studio versus a normal one?
Yeah, you're correct that they all look quite different, more than you'd expect. The most important thing I would say a founder should look for, number one, is who is the team at the studio. These are going to be your co-founders and your investors. Those are the two most important relationships you'll ever have as an entrepreneur. And it's now packed into one partner. So you need to really, really trust these people. You need to love working with these people. You need to basically be on board to invest the future of your life into these people for the next decade. So team is just end all be all number one. I'd rather see an entrepreneur work with a team at a studio that might be a tier 2 studio that they really, really get along with versus working with a tier 1 studio who they don't really know that well, but they have more street credit. Beyond that, I would say if you're an entrepreneur who wants to build an AI fintech company, don't go to a studio that specializes in 3D printing, for example.
Of course.
That's pretty obvious. And a lot of studios are beginning to and need to specialize in a specific niche or industry. So the number 2 thing I would say is pick a studio that matches the type of technology you want to build in the market that you want to enter.
Thank you, Jake. I have another question. What is something that studios are not very good at?
It's a great question as well. The number 1 thing all studios struggle with, and this is the blanket statement, is attracting the best entrepreneurs. It's really difficult, and it's a unique type of relationship for an entrepreneur to sign on to, right? To agree to. And so the best entrepreneurs in the world often just feel like, why do I need a studio, right? I know how to raise money and I know how to build. I've done this before. So what do I need their help with? And for the longest time, we just accepted that as like studios aren't going to land the best entrepreneurs. We'll go for the second best and make them the best. And is that okay? Maybe. Sure. There's room for a lot of people to be successful in the world. And so it's just still historically been difficult for studios to explain the model and get entrepreneurs to really understand that. That is the biggest reason I joined day one, actually, as chief marketing officer. We're a school for emerging entrepreneurs. And so we have many hundreds of entrepreneurs all over the world that are coming to us to learn how to become a great entrepreneur. And then we send them to studios. So one of my goals is to flood the studio market with great entrepreneurs so that they have more founders to build with.
Great. And I will take a question from the audience. Some people have been posting on the YouTube channel. By the way, if you have a question, that's where you can ask it directly. Directly there, there's a box. So I will rephrase the question as, what is the equity split between founders and the studio, typically?
Typically, what you'll see is a studio taking around 30%, maybe 40% in the company. That is often a split between preferred stock and common stock. So what I like to recommend is a new studio to invest capital that earns them about 15% in in preferred stock, and then build as a co-founder for about 15% in common stock. You add the two up, that's about 30% goes to the studio, whether that's one entity or two entities. In the eyes of the founder, though, it doesn't matter. 30% goes to the studio, 15 in common, 15 in preferred. The other 70% is for the founders and the employee stock option pool. That is the most common general structure, 70-30. You will see studios that are looking more for 50-50. You will see studios that only take 10%. It's very difficult for a venture studio for their economics to make sense, taking less than 25-30%.
Okay, thank you. This is great information that you shared with us today. I will introduce our second participant of this afternoon. I don't know where you are in the globe. So he is Roman Prokopiev. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it well, so I apologize. Roman is an IT entrepreneur, and he is the co-founder of Jooble, one of the world's biggest job aggregators. And he's also an active seed stage investor. So he has invested in now 14 companies, I think he can confirm. And he has done it both directly and through venture capital funds. So Roman will be sharing some of his ideas about his own venture lab and how he thinks about it. So, Roman, thank you for the time, and the floor is yours. Also, wait, just before you go, just want to remind the audience that you can be asking questions, and I think Jooble Venture Lab is going to be giving a gift to the best one. So, shoot your best question on the chat. Now, Roman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Caesar. Hi, guys. I'm happy to meet you here today. Frankly, for me, it is hard to speak about Jooble, a company that I founded 16 years ago with my close friend Eugene. It is hard because we had a long journey with three big crises that help us become stronger. We made a lot of mistakes, but also learned a lot of lessons. What is the most important thing that I should tell you? Frankly, I don't know, but I'll start to speak, and I hope with a lot of you guys, I have a chance to create a shared journey in the future. What is Jooble in terms of business model? We are a job search aggregator, like a Google, but for job search. We love Google so much that our first logo looked a little bit like a Google logo, like this. Likely, Google didn't sue us, but one of Google top manager invited us to a beer pub and in a super polite manner explained that it's better to change the logo. And we listened, and today it looks like a different way, pretty rabbit. What is Jooble geography, where we present? Today, we are a global company. Our services work in 69 countries, all major economies except China and fucking Russia, all emerging market, and some exotic countries like Costa Rica or the Philippines. According to data from SimilarWeb, we are number 2 aggregator and 6 in the entire jobs and careers category. We have more audience than Monster.com, for example, very famous brand. Our annual audience is more than 1 billion visits. If we could gather all our users that visit our site annually, it would be the third largest country in the world after China and India, like 400 million unique user annually. What is Jooble as a company? We are 350 passionate professionals. We are a remote first company from January 2021. Thank you, COVID. We are originally from Ukraine, but our employees work in 26 countries, from Canada to Indonesia. For the last 4 years, we have 50% of CAGR, and despite the war in our country, we will reach our goals this year with a 63% of annual growth rate. But you know, the most exciting question when we speak about companies is a purpose. What is the purpose of organization? Earning money, not really, at least for us. Satisfying your paying clients, closer but still far. Culture, decision, technology, and products are only consequences of purpose. And what is the purpose of Jooble organization as a company? Many years ago, we defined our purpose as we help people find jobs. You might be think, okay, not so much impressive and inventive, and you will be right. Yet this purpose for us is not a motto. It is not written upon every wall, and is not just a marketing tool. The dominance of the purpose is one of our unseen core principles that pervades everything we do. What can be read from our purpose? The first thing is that Jooble works for people. In our case, job seekers. In other words, job seeker is our primary client. And here I use the term client not in its narrow traditional meaning. So it's not about the job seeker pay money for to us. It's rather about when we think about the product or making decision or planning something, the first priority questions that we start with is how that will or will not help our job seeker find a job. With the connection of the underlying purpose, we will be starting any kind of initiative or product. Why do we think that job is important? Because I personally, as a company founder, deeply believe that job is something that has an essential influence on quality of life. There is a lot of different reasons why people are looking for a job. Some to realize creativity and energy, some for money, some for fun, community. There are different reasons, but no doubt it can dramatically change your life, your self-awareness, happiness feelings, and even find new friends. Sincerely, I can found a company that produce, for example, I don't know, juicers. Of course, it is important to drink fresh juice in the morning, but let's be honest, it isn't life-change experience if you are wrong with the right model of juicer at the kitchen. But if you make mistake with the choice of your work, of your job, it can hurt and can really hurt. And that is the reason why we decided to start Jooble Venture Lab, because we want to create more than job aggregator. Here on the slide is a customer journey map of job seeker. It is pretty simplified, frankly. As you see today, Jooble is a small part of the whole ecosystem, but we want to create better products, better solution to simplify life of a job seeker. The industry of online job search, it sucks. I swear. In many countries, the most popular services for job search is still job boards. Maybe not you, but your parents remember newspaper when you spend many time to find one good vacancy, and after 3 years. 3 years. 30 years of inventing the internet, nothing changed. It is still a newspaper, but electronic. You still need to spend a ton of time just listing vacancies, sitting with a phone or a laptop. You can not believe me, but making the right job matching and CV is still a huge problem that costs billions of dollars. That is why we think that it is a good reason to join in online job search industry. It is so sucks that it means you can create a huge difference. Why we decide to run Venture Lab or Startup Studio instead of hiring managers and run a new business unit? I, as a private person, is an active investor in IT companies, and I have invested in dozens of companies, a lot of successful. I believe in the magic of power of entrepreneurs. They have some special elements, fifth element, if you that make the impossible possible. People create miracle every day. Entrepreneurs create miracle every day. Makes big deal without product. Hire top specialist only with a big vision. Do marketing with zero budgets. For me, entrepreneurs are really wizards. There's no matter how experienced managers are, but they are not crazy enough to create big things from nothing, from zero, from scratch idea. I favorite quote by Nassim Taleb words: "Most of you fail, be disrespected, impoverished, but we are grateful for the risk you are taking and the sacrifice you are making for the sake of the economic growth of the planet and pulling other of poverty. And you are the source of anti-fragility. Humanity thanks you." I believe in the entrepreneurs, but the same days we see the barrier for starting own businesses high every day. You need more and more money for marketing and product. It's quite a big challenge to attract the right people in a startup. To be a solo founder, frankly, is the craziest journey, and I don't recommend to anybody this journey. When I founded my first company, I was 18 years old. It was successful. I sold my company after 5 years of launching, but it was a nightmare from day one. So many mistakes, so many bad decisions due to lack of investments and experience, so many bad hires. The right partner gives not 2 times more probability to be successful, but 10 times more probability. It is still low figures, but 10 times more than if you are going to build your company by yourself. That's why we create Jooble Venture Lab to help entrepreneurs become succeed. How works Jooble Venture Lab and why we believe that we are a good partner. Alex will tell you in a few minutes, but I'll happy to answer any questions that Caesar you have or audience have.
Well, thank you, Roman. I think there's the question in the audience that like about specifically, I mean, the business that you've been building. Like, what is the hardest about building an aggregator?
I will answer it's not only about for aggregator, but I think the most important thing that I have told it's to find purpose of your business. Because if you can't find purpose, everything will be go wrong. We find our purpose not from day one. From day one, we think that we building business for money, and is the worst decision we have ever made, because it is business. If you want to build business for money, don't do it. Just don't do it. Build business if you want to make change, if you want to change this world and to make some new value, to help other people to create something. So in aggregator business, in any other business, I think the most difficult things is to find right purpose that drive your company.
Interesting. I was not expecting that answer. I was expecting a more tactical one, but thank you for going deeper. Another question. You are an investor in new companies, and recently, and this is also coming from the audience, by the way. Recently, in the world, we have seen a slowdown in investor activity. So the audience is curious about your activity as an investor. Have you slowed down your investing? And if yes, when are you going to start investing actively again? What are you expecting to see? Or if you haven't slowed down, tell us why you haven't slowed down. What opportunities are you seeing out there?
I will tell even more. Economic slowdown, it sucks. I live in a country with a war in Ukraine, and after the war, I have 3 investment in Ukrainian companies, and I'm not scary about that because when it's a bad time, there is always a good teams with a good product. As we speak, I know figures. If you speak about world market and its last quarter, it's a slowdown in venture investments. It's true, but for me as a private investors, I didn't slow down this year. I will say that is the same investment of amount, the money that I invest this year, and I'm really happy with progress of companies. One of companies that I has had investment in the April, like X7 in valuation for like 7 months.
Thank you. I am personally very happy to hear what you just said. And I have a question of my own, and looking at the slide that we have right in front of us, you talk about this entrepreneurs versus managers. I would like to for you to go deeper into that theme. What do you see that is different? And yeah, like what is this a core theme that you wanted to share this with us today?
Uh, eh, as I mentioned, it's like a secret element. It is quite hard to explain. Is this an entrepreneur or this is a manager? But entrepreneur, for sure, is crazy enough. He's crazy and he don't believe that I can do that. He just don't believe. Managers is something who need to check everything. Am I had good have a good value proposition? Is it my right client? Could I deliver results? Blah blah blah. Check it. Entrepreneur said, I believe I can. That's all. That's all that I need. It's like all entrepreneurs are crazy. It's true, and it makes them successful. One of the most successful entrepreneur, Elon Musk, who can believe that you can go to the Mars? It's a crazy. It's a fully crazy idea. You make a car and you decided that you should to go to the Mars, but it's happened. It's happening right now.
Thank you. I have to agree that I have met a lot of crazy people during my entrepreneurial journey. So thank you, Roman. I will welcome our third guest. That is Alex Orlov, and he is the head of the Jooble Venture Lab that Roman was talking to us about. He is a product leader, technology executive, and he has been in the industry, like learning and doing things for over 10 years. He has been launching, growing, and scaling successful global SaaS products for all this time. And as far as I know, he really likes to be hands-on and is passionate about building products that create a better future for all of us. So, Alex, thank you for joining us, and please share with us more about the Jooble Venture Lab and how this can be a springboard for startups.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Caesar, for the introduction. I believe it's good to be the third speaker in this role, so I will be reiterating many smart things these smart guys told before me, so it's a nice spot for me to be in this conversation. So I'll just break it down a little bit deeper for the audience, for those who are interested, how we managed to build the venture lab that Roman was mentioning. And I actually need to make a disclaimer before that. It's just one story of one startup studio. As Jake mentioned at the very beginning, they are quite different, even more than you expect them to be different. So it's just one unique story. And if we also think about the classification, thanks, Jake, to the well-structured setup at the very beginning. So I would put Jooble Venture Lab into the box of corporate studios, actually, because it's a venture studio run by Jooble. And it's run within the company, so it's an internal one. And let me see, Jake also had the classification like human first or idea first. We are human first, to put that checkbox also. So that's just one case out of many possible scenarios that might be for venture studios that we experienced. Few notes of how we decided to manage these things. So first, we derived actually as a corporate studio from the superpowers as a corporation. I wouldn't call Jooble corporation. We're not like MasterCard or P&G from Jake's slide yet. We'll be at that scale probably one day soon. But we are corporate studio, so we derived from the superpowers we already have. So we just took a look on what we do have and what we realized. Like we do have best-in-class job search technologies. That's what we see in many aspects, many underlying layers behind that, but we are really doing a great job in there. So what if we consider the products that might be quite different, might serve different markets or might serve different users, but might also possess some of those technologies as they're found in elements for them. It might be beneficial for them. Then Roman was mentioning those numbers, like it might be another country, large country built out of Jooble's users. So we've got, if you break it down to months, 120 million users coming to us monthly. So what if we consider building products also serving these users, I mean, people who are looking for a job, but in different ways, in different stages of this job search. So why don't we have the products built for those users? If we provide this kind of a ground for startups, it might be really beneficial for them if they work in this field. And then we also realize that, like, if we try to understand who we are in terms of the competences, the spirit of the team that we do have, we realize, like, we should probably call ourselves like product geeks or marketing geeks. We have really huge expertise on both sides of that. Both product team and marketing team are really great teams with deep domain and functional expertise. So we are really proud of that. Why don't we have that resource, take it and make it available, that resource, that expertise, that knowledge, and the domain-specific knowledge in product and marketing, our knowledge of the customer by both of those teams, and bring it to the table for the startups who can play in the same domain of job search, which is quite huge. Why don't we match the entrepreneurs with that expertise? So that was our perspective on the superpowers and how we that drove our decisions, what type of projects, what type of products we might put our focus on. Then we also spent some time, we actually do that throughout the lifetime of our company because we are in that market, but we also, like when launching the venture studios, spend some time taking a deeper look on the industry. So are we in the right industry to actually invest in more products to build a venture studio in that industry? Maybe we should just extend our vision. And the great thing is, no, we are in the right market. And even despite the slowdown that was just discussed, not just Roman is excited about investing further on and is keeping his pace, not just Roman, I believe. The industry, I just don't have the stats for 2022, but I'm telling that the analysts say that the amount of investment this year, venture capital brought into HR tech this year is growing comparing to the boom, even comparing to the boom that we saw last year, 2021. Okay, that's great. That's a good market to play at. And is there really any room for innovation in there? And like some of you have heard some rumors, like HR tech is a good place for old school crappy technology to succeed, to be in place, not to be replaced. Like for some reason, the innovative entrepreneurs forgot about the HR tech space, and there is nothing happening in there. It's right. Like there was no next best thing there yet. Roman was mentioning that nothing too novel, nothing that disrupted the market after introduction of the jobs marketplace as job boards into the space. However, those who say that there is no room for innovation in HR tech, they are not right. And we are happy with that because there are really lots of good trends happening in there. Different parts of that market tend to be kind of Uberized, modern popular word right now. They in different parts of that market, all the intermediaries like agencies tending to be thrown away from the chain and being replaced with the technology. Good things happening with implementing of AI into all steps of the recruiting process. There is no magic button yet for hiring a person. However, AI is slowly replacing some portions of the process, and there is a lot of investment in that and lots of successful products innovate in this space. Lots of spots for innovation at the edge of job search, recruitment, and education. So lots of good spots. We are in a good shape. We need to focus on those spots. That was our decision. Okay, then we thought, like, what will be our approach to innovate? And I won't bother you with the details of the process. If there'll be any questions, I'll be happy to address. Overall, Jake said that at the very beginning, and that's an advantage of any studio. We were obliged to set up the repeatable process, because our goal is not to find just one another product. We would rather do that as a Jooble organization, not launching the venture studio. Our goal is to have multiple tens of projects, tens of startups being validated, then run. And our goal is, and our mission was to set up the repeatable process for that. And we are doing that right now with the startups in our pipeline right now. The two key words about the process is it is lean by design, because you always want this journey to be really iterative, and you want to be focused on the problems and on the customer first. And at the same time, it should be not just a random things to work on. It should be a really deliberate process when you immersively look into the market and trying to understand, is the market that part of market growing or not? It's a good market to build a product. Then you immersively look deeper into the customer and spend a great deal of time identifying the problem. Then using this process and with some cadence, you move on with building the model, validating it, and actually building the startup. So this are the outlines, and I'll be happy to address any questions. Then finally, what are the ingredients we need to add to that process, to the startup creation process that will help him to succeed? Our answer to that, and again, it's just our story, as it was mentioned before, all the venture studios, they are quite different. Our answer is we obviously fund the startups. We have option to augment the team, like we have a co-founder joining the startup studio, but we do our best to support him and find team members or even co-founders within the team from product, marketing, operational departments, etc. So they join the efforts and expertise. I already mentioned the main thing in these bullets: unfair advantages that we can, as an established company, as a market leader, provide to the startups. That's our, I would put it as a secret sauce, secret ingredient. That's what we offer: access to the largest base of relevant users who are really actively visiting and using the product, access to technology, etc. Those things, they might serve as an unfair advantage for the startup working in the same domain from the day one of its creation. Obviously, our expertise, obviously connection to the industry communities that we do have, and proactively are extending our network in different directions. Obviously, mentorship from within an org and facilitation of the process, facilitation of that ideation, validation phases to help the startup succeed and not run into too many mistakes at the very beginning, because there is still a lot of space to make those mistakes. And finally, I will close probably my part, and I will be happy to address your questions. I will close it with reiterating what was again mentioned by the guys before. If you ask me what is the core ingredient and what is the most challenging for the venture studio to be successful, it is people. And Jake mentioned that was talking about that from entrepreneur perspective. So how do I define what is a venture studio? Should I work with this venture studio? How good is this venture studio, and which one is good or which one is great? And he said, you need to look for the great people who will be your co-founders and investors. And I can say the same thing, but from the other side, from inside the venture studio. When you look for the co-founders in the venture studio, we're looking for the true superheroes, because you're looking for those crazy people with an excellent or even beyond level of ownership of what they do. And at the same time, you are looking for those who have experience and with a broadness of their vision to actually be the drivers of the product and the visionaries who see the customer's problem. So all those things put together makes the challenge of finding these co-founders really exciting and complicated at the same time. Here are the projects we are currently working on. Maybe if again will be questions, I can say a few words about any of them. All of them are in the domain of job search, which is our domain. Yeah, Cesar, maybe that's all from my side, and maybe some questions from you.
Oh, that's great, Alex. I do have questions for you. So, and it's very connected to the last slide. Before you told us that you're seeing a lot of opportunity in the HR tech space. And I'm curious, like, what are some opportunities that you're seeing out there that you're feeling very excited about?
Yeah, I would just recall a few of them that we are currently working on. There are some that we just didn't start yet, looking for the right entrepreneurs. The ones we already started working on are related to the drastic shift that is happening in the way people are finding work. So there are two things here. The first is maybe after the COVID, maybe the overall the evolution of our world is evolving into that direction. There is a shift in how people treat full-time versus gig work, and there is a rise of gig work in different formats happening around the world in different occupations. So really, the expectation is that more than 50% of the working people will be, at least in some portion of their income, some portion of their work will be a gig work. They will be having as a primary source of income or additional one. That's a good trend. And on the other side, there is a great amount of technology that can automate the process of finding that work. And that's the reason why many startups right now raise in that area, allowing to make the job search really as simple as calling the Uber driver transaction, the transaction that you have on your Uber app. Or as simple as finding the next place to stay on Airbnb. So that trend and the technology that allows to get together the employer and the worker in an app and get that transaction happen digitally is really an exciting opportunity for new projects, and we are also working on this kind of themes as well. Another area, maybe Yaroslav will mention a bit more. We also have one of the entrepreneurs in our venture studio on this call. He probably can tell some about his project he's currently involved in.
Yeah, I will ask you to introduce him in a couple of minutes. I'll just ask you one more question, and then we go to that, because
okay.
I mean, we have somebody here who's actually living through the experience. So I guess the other question is, when you see so much opportunity out there, but you're also trying to be human first, how do you manage that temptation to start idea first, because it is so clear to you that this needs to exist, and then recruit the person to be leading that venture? Like, how do you deal with that temptation?
We do have that temptation, and we have those like parallel streams. So we understand that, like, even if we understand that market trend, and even it's really, really inspiring, there is no any reason, any possible chance to actually start this journey without that passionate leader who can drive it. Like, it doesn't make any sense, and innovation doesn't happen that way. You need the driver. So how we limit our temptation is we just limit it by understanding the right markets in parallel with searching the entrepreneur. So when the entrepreneur joins, we obviously not telling him, okay, here is a huge HR tech domain, go find it out what's out there. So we try to put on the table the perspective, niches, problems that we are aware of, who are solving, and a great market niches that we see in there. But it's not the business idea, right? It's not the product that we give him to build. From that point, the journey starts, when the market opportunities that we see matches the great personality and a great A player who joins us.
Great. We've been talking a lot about entrepreneurs, and we actually have one of the entrepreneurs here who is going through the Venture Lab. So do you want to introduce him and maybe spend like a couple, 2 or 3 minutes, I don't know, like sharing your experience?
Absolutely. Thank you. I will be really happy to introduce Yaroslav, who joined us like 6 months ago or so. And he is actually an entrepreneur within Jooble Venture Lab, working on one of job search related projects right now, being quite far in his validation journey. And Yaroslav, the floor is yours. Maybe you can say a few words about how it actually feels and looks like from inside.
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys. Thank you for having me today. Let me share really short my story of joining Jooble Venture Lab and my current experience now. So first of all, I have an entrepreneurial background. I've started a couple of companies before joining Jooble. None of them, unfortunately, grew too big. So about 6 months ago, I was searching for another opportunities or approaches of how to start your company and how to grow it faster and bigger. And that's how actually I found out about the format of startup studios. And one of them in Ukraine, where I am, was launched by Jooble. So I joined the Venture Lab and started to work on a project which deals with the migrant workers. There are many of them in the world, and what I'm trying to do is to bring a new solution to help people easily find a job abroad and do it in more secure way, eliminating the risks and so on. What I'd like to emphasize about being in the startup studio, there is no magic pill, right? You still have to work hard. You still have to go stage by stage as you do in every startup. You have to identify the actual need, validate it through customer development or launching MVPs or any other techniques. And then you have to bring all together and create your solution and grow it. So having all these resources from day one, a part of funding is also expertise or analytics or data or advice or support of the community and so on. That's everything is very valuable, but still this will not guarantee you to successfully launch your companies. So if I can bring any metaphor here, I would say if you are going to run the marathon, be sure to pick up the right shoes, right? But still you have to run with your own legs. So be prepared to work hard and leverage all you have from your shoes taken from the startup studios.
Ooh, I love that. I love the metaphor. Yeah, I happen to run, and yes, like you can buy the best shoes. Yeah, the marathon is not going to be done by the shoes. You still have to use your legs. I absolutely love that. Thank you. This has been great. One thing that we've been doing also is polls. So some people in the audience have been sharing some of their thoughts. And the last poll is about like what are you looking for in a studio, and there's this thing about expertise. I will close this we're at time, and I will close it with one question. Hopefully, Jake's still with us. Right now, Jake, I don't see you on video, but I'm sure you're listening. So you can bring your video on again. That would be great. And in the same order that we went, I will give a question to you guys. I heard you say several times, it is all about the people. It is all about finding the right people to be working with. I think even the company itself, Jooble, it's about people finding the right people. So one question I have for every one of you, and I ask you to spend 30 seconds on it each, is what is something that you look in when you are trying to find people that you want to be working with? What is that thing that is like, this is the thing that I look for? That's what I care about when you're looking for people to work with. So yeah, Jake?
I don't know if I could pinpoint a trait. I mean, certainly I want to trust them and I want to feel like we have complementary skill sets, but I do the camping test. I ask myself the question, do I want to go camping with this person for a weekend? That means a lot. Are you willing to sleep in a tent with them? Are you willing to like drive long distances with them and maybe encounter rough terrain? Are they going to bring are they going to hold up their share of the deal? Like, are they going to bring the food that they said they were going to bring? Are they going to help clean up the campsite? All that stuff. And you can answer that question about a person pretty immediately upon meeting them. And if I'm like, I don't think I would spend the weekend camping with them, I'm not going to go build a company with them for 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Cesar. I can spend a few hours to to answer for this question, but I'll try to be super quick. We in Jooble, we know for sure what we are looking for. We have 5 values, and we obsessed that every people who came to our company has these 5 values. First, internal locus of control. People who believe that he or she is the reason of everything that happened with her or him. Passion to work. People who love the work. That work is something they obsessed. Third, it's openness to people. People who can view from different point of one thing. Fourth is a growth mindset. People who want to be today better than they were yesterday. And last one is owner mindset. People who drive the company as their entrepreneur.
Thank you. I'm taking notes both from Jake and you, Roman. What about you, Alex?
Hard to add something to what just Roman mentioned because we all share the same values. I would say on top of that, the person who really feels like the sky is the limit, like there is no limitations, it's just about something in your head that might be limiting you, and it should not be. The sky is the limit. You can achieve everything. Just figure out your path. So that's the right people for me to work with, I would say.
Thank you. So much wisdom in everything that you shared. Thank you to the audience too for sitting with us, for asking questions, for being engaged. There was this one participant who asked the largest number of questions, Vladislav Renil. So you also asked very interesting questions. You are getting a present from Jooble Venture Lab. So I don't know the logistics, but I'm sure things will happen. And thank you everyone for sharing. It's so valuable to get information from people who are actually walking the walk, who are building stuff, who are taking risks, who are living their own values. I appreciate so much. I learned a lot from you today. And that's it for today. If you want to say one more word to the audience, this is more your moment. You have a farewell piece of advice, go for it.
First of all, thank you, Caesar. And as Alex mentioned, sky is the limit. You are welcome to us, and we'll be happy to work together.
Mhm.
Alex, you're on mute.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to have joint journeys together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Well,
Bye-bye.
thank you, everyone. Goodbye.